Welcome to West Country Wanderings and welcome to another one in my canal series. Today I'm in the village of Wilmcote. That's with an N, but it's spelt with an M. Very confusing, I know, Wilmcote. It looks like it's spelled Wilmcote. Anyway, we're in the county of Warwickshire today, in the southern part of Warwickshire, but only about 8 miles to the north of the Gloucestershire border. I'm on what is known, misleadingly, as the North Warwickshire line here. In that direction, it takes us to the town of Stratford-upon-Avon. If I've got time, I'll catch a train down into that town today. So what's that got to do with canals? Well, very close to here is the Stratford-upon-Avon Canal. It was completed in 1816, and the reason it was diverted through this beautiful and historic village of Wilmcote is because of the limestone quarries in this area. They then used the canals to transfer the aggregate out of the quarries to build towns further up into the West Midlands. So I hope you can join me today here on West Country Wanderings. What I'm planning to do is do a walk in a northerly direction from this village towards River Aqueduct, which is a most impressive structure indeed and is unique among aqueducts on the British Canal network. Now here at Wilmcote station, and it's a very, very lovely station here, is a plaque I've just noticed, just read it here, and it's in memory of a gentleman called Douglas King, who was a resident of Wilmcote here in Warwickshire, and he did a fantastic job in appealing to the Court of Appeal, to ensure that British Railways did not close this important railway line between Birmingham and Stratford-upon-Avon in 1969. So that's after the beaching cuts. They still wanted to go ahead, make further cuts and close this really important historic line. Of course, it's really important for the tourism industry as well, and also the links to Shakespeare right here in Wilmcote too. So it's really, really good. You did a fantastic job, Douglas, and this serves as a tribute to him here on the station platform. Now I've just noticed that the next train is heading towards the town of Kidderminster in Worcestershire, and one of the places it stops en route is a place called the Lakes. Now, nothing to do with the Lake District. Now, the lakes were actually man-made reservoirs near the village of Earlswood. And during the 19th century, they were built to provide water into the Stratford-upon-Avon Canal, which we'll be exploring in a bit more depth here on the video today. And they became a bit of an excursion point, hence GWR opened a station there, or rather a halt, to serve people coming out of the West Midlands conurbation during the weekends to enjoy recreational pursuits alongside the lakes at the Lakes. Now you might be able to see on the opposite side there, the other platform, the one heading down into the ward Stratford-upon-Avon, sign saying Wilmcote, and it says underneath, the home of Mary Arden. So what we'll do first, before we head on to the canal towpath in the direction of River Aqueduct, is have a very quick look at the home of Mary Arden, who was William Shakespeare's mother, and her former farm is a central tourist feature in the village. So we're going to have a look at that now. So behind me here is Mary Arden's farm here in the village of Wilmcote in Warwickshire, just about 4 miles outside of the town of Stratford-upon-Avon. And this was once the mother of William Shakespeare's farm. There are 2 farm buildings here, and they're not sure which one exactly was the one that belonged to William's mother. It's closed at the moment, but it's due to reopen again in the next few days. It has, I think, been closed since the start of the pandemic. Hopefully it'll be reopening soon. They've done some more restoration work during that time here. So this here, just to my left, your right, coming out to now, was what was once Wilmcote Wharf, and it revived Wilmcote's fortunes. Stratford-upon-Avon Canal coming through here, and I'll tell you a bit more about the history of this canal as we continue our journey along towards Stratford Aqueduct. It's a fascinating place. It also has a terrific railway station, as you saw earlier in the video. I'm actually hoping to do a trip later in today's video down towards Stratford-upon-Avon on the line. It's called the North Warwickshire line, which is a bit of a misnomer because we're actually in South Warwickshire. In fact, we're only 8 miles from the border here with the county of Gloucestershire. We would hopefully to have a trip down there. There's a service every half an hour or so, every 3/4 an hour, and it only takes 9 minutes, and that avoids all the car parking and congestion in Stratford-upon-Avon town centre. Now this structure behind me, and I'm sorry for the slightly shaky camera work because it is rather gusty today, first dry day we've had in quite some time, since I think 2nd of January, to be able to get out a film. I digress. This is the remains of a bridge over the canal, and the bridge served the line that once connected the Roman town of Ulster, Alcester, which we've come across a couple of times before on West Country Wanderings, to the Warwickshire town of Stratford-upon-Avon. Very little remains of it, but you can just see the abutments of the bridge there. There is some blue bricks, I've just noticed, up this footpath on my side, the towing path side of the canal. Just have a quick look at that first before we continue. So yes, our railway heading towards the direction of Ulster went across the canal there, and where that bank of wood is there, looks like it's ready for a bonfire. This is private land, just showing you there. It continued over there. Not a lot else to see. There's a private drive that's been carved into the landscape there too. But yeah, there's some steps just here, and you can see the remains of the railway here. I'm not sure why the steps were put here by the railway, presumably to placate any of the landowners that needed access to the land after the railway was built. So it's some 2.5 kilometres to Stratford Aqueduct, and when I get there I'll put the tripod up again and give a little more of the history of the canal. One of the things to mention though is that this canal was pretty much the first one to be completely restored. The canal actually closed in 1939, and back at Wilmcote there, and you said it again, Wilmcote, however you want to pronounce the village, is a concrete bridge. Now back in the early 60s, when the original bridge was deteriorating, the road planners had plans to completely infill the Stratford-upon-Avon Canal, the derelict Stratford-upon-Avon Canal, much to the annoyance of local residents in the area. They weren't having it, and they set up a group, I think it's called Sonax. Took a photo of a plaque back there, and can't put that in there. I think that probably stands for Stratford-upon-Avon Canal Trust or some such. I'll put in the exact description below. And they did absolutely sterling work, because by 1964 the canal here, in fact all of the way right into the Birmingham's canal network and back down towards where it joins the River Avon in Stratford-upon-Avon, was completely restored by 1964, which is a lot earlier than other restoration projects we've seen here on West Country Wanderings. In fact, they did such a good job and it was so prestigious that Queen Elizabeth, who sadly departed us last year, came along and reopened the restored canal. And there lies testament of all the rain that we've had throughout the West Country and the West Midlands during the past week. Seems like it's rained solidly every single day. I've actually had some difficulty. Oh, by the way, that's the railway line there. You can just see that row of hedgerow there. That is our railway line, which we saw at Wilmcote. And we'll be seeing that again because it's now heading north, that railway line, in the direction of Beerley Junction, not far from the aqueduct, where it splits. And the line splits onto the right, takes a route towards the West Midlands and Birmingham, going through Solihull, and to the left it goes to a place we've been to before, Wootton Warren, and then makes its way to Birmingham Moor Street. Yeah, so the state of the fields there, testament to the rain that we've had. As I say, it's been raining pretty much non-stop in the West Country and the West Midlands over the past week or so. I last out filming, I think it was the 2nd of January, when I was down in Devon, no, Somerset, not Devon. I was on the Grand Western Canal, and I did a little video at Chosen Hill, not far from where I live, just a few miles away in Gloucestershire. It was tricky getting here today because I put the sat-nav on, and first of all I got stuck joining the M5. It took me about 15-20 minutes just to join the M5. Once I was on it was okay. It came off at the Tewkesbury turn-off, junction 9, if you know that area, and then headed through Ashchurch on the A46 up towards Evesham. Very sticky around Ashchurch as it normally is. But when I turned off Ulster to make my way across to Stratford-upon-Avon and Wilmcote, it suggested I cut through Aston Cantlow, around that area. And the trouble with that, of course, is that the lanes, the country lanes all around there, were completely flooded. So I had to retrace my steps. I'm having to walk in slowly because it's very, very muddy. I'll just show you a second. Yeah, that's probably not the worst bits of it, but yeah, it's been very flooded around the country lanes of this part of Warwickshire. Indeed, lots of places at the moment. This is no exception to anywhere else, really. Obviously, you can see that the canal, I'll show you that again in a second, level is pretty high too. So I had to double back, and then I got stuck back on the A46 again. It was jammed up. There'd been an accident on the approach roundabouts to Stratford-upon-Avon. So a journey that should have taken me just over an hour took me best part of nearly 2 hours. But anyway, I'm here. I'm delighted I'm here. It is dry today. It is, as I say, it is a bit breezy, so I do apologise for wobbly camera work. There isn't much I can do about that. There's some very, very strong gusts, but at least it does mean I can get out and film and bring you some content right here on West Country Wanderings. And one of the many things I love about the Stratford-upon-Avon Canal is its bridges. And I think I mentioned this before. You have the small groove where it lifts up at the top there. We'll have a closer look at that to enable horses with the ropes towing tugboats, barges and narrowboats along this canal, so they didn't have to untangle them and retangle them at the other side of the bridge. They can do it in one fluid motion. Now, I'm not sure if this here is a winding hole to turn narrowboats around, or probably tugboats originally when carrying the stone, but it is quite a small one. But it might have been a little arm serving a quarry just the other side of those fields. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at a map and put that in roundabout now if I can find anything, or it's probably just an impromptu winding hole. So we're now on a curve, almost a 90-degree curve, before our final approach towards the Aqueduct. Now, what I'm planning to do, I'm going to give you a viewpoint from the top of the aqueduct, so we're going to walk over it, and I'll then retrace my steps to a place called Draper's Bridge, which should be just up ahead. I'll take the footpath across the field then, water willing, to get to the road beneath it, so I can get you a shot of the aqueduct in all its glory from street level. So the aqueduct goes over a bit of a valley, goes over a river, I believe. I'm not sure the name of the river. Is it possibly the Arrow? But I'm not sure. Or tributary of it. I'll put that in now. And it also goes over a road, the one we'll be on, and the two tracks of the North Warwickshire Railway. Now, originally the North Warwickshire Railway was single when Wilmcote station was opened, and it then doubled, as you'll see. So you've got the Beerley spit where you've got the turnout for the Solihull line, which ends up with that now Chiltern Railways. The lines around here are currently served by West Midlands Railways, and it then goes off in another direction, say to Wootton Warren, which we've seen before a couple of times here on West Country Wanderings. Anyway, hope you're enjoying the tour along the towpath, or the towing path as it says on my OS map, alongside the Stratford-upon-Avon Canal. Now we're approaching Draper's Bridge. Interesting name, not sure how it got its name. Draper's usually associated with people that sell cloth and clothes, but we're deep inside the Warwickshire countryside here, so yeah, certainly don't see any shops or factories making clothes, it's just open fields. So yeah, not sure about the origins of that name. The reason I came here today, probably thinking, why did I come to Warwickshire today? Well, it was to do with the weather. Looking across most of the West Country, Devon and Cornwall, Somerset, Gloucestershire, Dorset, it was showing it was going to rain all day. Yet here, just 8 miles north of the Gloucestershire border, over in the south part of Warwickshire, it said it was going to be dry, and it said that 2 days ago, and I thought, oh, I must have got that wrong. So I checked again yesterday, and it said dry here, wet where I live in Gloucestershire. And this morning I checked again, dry here, wet where I live in Gloucestershire. And as I say, we're not that far from the Cotswolds here either. We're just probably 12, 14 miles away from places like Chipping Camden, which we've seen before, of course. Yeah, it was dry. It was dry when I left home, and when I got here, it stopped raining. I have had just a little splash, very light splash of very light rain. It's not the rain coming down that's the problem, though. It's the water that's on the ground that's proving to be tricky. I am actually finding the walk quite tricky because I'm having to concentrate a lot. Well, that's why I'm not vlogging face to face to the camera at the moment, because I don't want to fall over. And yeah, it also pulls on your calf muscles, because you're using different muscles to what you do normally when walking, because you're trying to stay upright while sliding backwards at various points along the towpath. So I can now glimpse the straightness of the aqueduct here at Bearley, or near Bearley. It has an alternative name which has just gone out of my head. I think it's called Edstone, which might be a hamlet or farm on the other side of the canal. On the left hand side, I think Bearley is on the right, and that is where the railway junction is too. Anyway, we're going to make our way closer to the aqueduct. I'll do a shot across it, walking across it, and I'll retrace my steps, go down to the road so you can see the grandeur of the aqueduct from street level. So here's the Edstone Aqueduct in all its glory, or Bearley Aqueduct, whichever you prefer. But what's so unusual about this aqueduct? Well, two things. The first is that it's the longest aqueduct in England. Obviously not Wales, because of the one I can never pronounce, Pontsclite. That's probably wrong. But you know the one in a minute. I'll drop that in below. It's been featured on YouTube hundreds, if not thousands of times. But the other thing that's unusual about this aqueduct, but it is in common with all the aqueducts on the Stratford-upon-Avon Canal, is that it sits in an iron trough. There's no bit of mud or stone masonry here like the stone masonry bridge that we saw the other day at Ninehead on the Grand Western, that beautiful bit of stone masonry architecture. Here it's all iron, very much a symbol of the Iron Age, not the original Iron Age, but the symbol of the Industrial Revolution, of course. And as you see, that the towpath is below the water level. So let's go across. So the Stratford-upon-Avon Canal is some 22.5 miles long and was constructed between 1793 and was opened in 1816. It was later purchased by a railway company, where have we heard that before many, many times, and was gradually run down towards the 1930s and was completely unusable by the end of the Second World War. In the northern section in the West Midlands, at Kingswood Junction, it joins the Grand Union Canal, probably the most famous and most well-known, and probably also the busiest canal on the entire canal network in the United Kingdom, of course, linking London and the South East to the West Midlands. Principal engineer from when the Act of Parliament was passed in 1793 to build a canal here through Warwickshire was one William Clowes, who we've come across many times before on the canal series here on West Country Wanderings, including, I know he had connections to the Thames and Severn Canal too. There's also some 56 locks on the canal. There's one just up here. When the canal starts at the Birmingham end, it is quite level. But after the connection to Grand Union Canal, there is a steep descent at Lapworth where there are a flight of locks. Now, just to the south of the village of Wilmcote, and I won't have time to explore that today, there are a flight of 11 locks which takes the canal on the descent towards the River Avon basin at Stratford-upon-Avon, but that's something we will look at a future video here on West Country Wanderings. Another thing that's unusual about a canal is that the first lock at Kings Norton is actually a guillotine gated lock, and it's the only one of that type on the canal system in the United Kingdom. Not quite sure where the idea of that came from, presumably across the channel from France, but it doesn't seem to have been used anywhere else, and it's obviously not that popular because it hasn't been adopted anywhere else on the canal system. Excuse the train on the North Warwickshire line, just heading underneath the aqueduct here. So the aqueduct passes over the road, as we said. That stream doesn't seem to be a river, it's stream, but it's certainly in full pelt at the moment with all the rain that's come through. And it also passes over the trackbed of the former Ulster Railway at 175 metres, or 475 feet if you prefer. This aqueduct is the longest aqueduct in England, and it's certainly a magnificent spectacle, and I think we'll see it to its best advantage if we now take a trip down the steps on the other side of the aqueduct and see what it looks like from road level. So this is Edstone Aqueduct from street level, as it were. Mighty fine and impressive structure. Unfortunately, because of the tree growth on that side, you can't see the full length of the aqueduct from ground level. But of course it goes on to go over that stream, river, and also over the railway tracks and the disused railway track as well. But it is certainly a mighty, mighty structure and an impressive piece of Victorian engineering. It must have been incredible to see the workmen cutting out, because there is a bit of a cutting literally on both sides of the approach of this. Although that appears to be high, there is a bit of a cutting as you get into the aqueduct itself from towpath level, canal bed level. And it would have been amazing to see this being built on site and assembled with all the iron and the welding and the bolts and the rivets to make this the longest aqueduct in England. So what I'm going to do now, let's go back up those steps, back onto the towpath, return to Wilmcote, going to grab some coffee from my car, then going to catch a train from the station of Wilmcote, head into Stratford-on-Avon and show you where this canal joins the River Avon. So why not join me continuing here on West Country Wanderings. So I'm now back at Wilmcote, about to board the train going to Stratford-on-Avon, so I'll see you in Stratford in a bit.
The next station is Stratford-upon-Avon. The next station is Stratford-upon-Avon. This train terminates here. All change. Please ensure that you take all your personal belongings with you when leaving the train.
So we've now arrived at the lovely station at Stratford-upon-Avon. It's a heritage station here. Just took some clips and some photos, but we're going to head into the town now to see where the canal joins the River Avon. So here we are on a very windy Stratford-upon-Avon front of the station there. I love those chimneys. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's a beautiful station here. So I'm making my way down to the Canal River Basin, just showing you snippets of Stratford-upon-Avon. This isn't a detailed video of the town. We will come back here on a future occasion to explore the town and its heritage and history in more detail, but just to give you a flavour and then show you the Canal and River Basin. So this is Stratford-upon-Avon's public library, and also it's the registry office for births, marriages and deaths too. And that's of course where everybody comes to Stratford-upon-Avon for. The Baird, William Shakespeare, good statue of him there next to the Shakespeare shop. So now looking at Shakespeare's birthplace, and this is where the tourists all come, perhaps not so much in January. And then on the left of the screen there is the Shakespeare Centre. It's got scaffolding on it. So that was opened by Princess Alexandra of Kent back in 1962. Oh, noble fool, a worthy fool. Yes, this statue here was actually commissioned in 1994 by the Lord Lieutenant of Warwickshire. And of course it's from Shakespeare's play, As You Like It. It's a lovely shop here full of locally done pottery and designs created right here in Stratford-upon-Avon. Let's have a closer look. Yes, they're rather fabulous designs. So this is our Stratford-upon-Avon Canal again. This is just before it joins the Bancroft Basin and the River Avon. I'm going to have a look at that shortly, but it's heading north here to Kings Norton, just south of Birmingham, some 22.5 miles away. And so this here is Bancroft Basin. It's just one more lock over there, where the canal then joins the River Avon. That there is the Royal Shakespeare Company. It's the theatre. Lots of performances on there. They also have a cafe overlooking the canal and the river, and also a rooftop restaurant. Here's a narrow boat, which is also a restaurant, the Countess of Evesham. And so this is it. This is the end or the start of the Stratford-upon-Avon Canal, depending on which direction you're coming from. There's the basin over there, where we were just a bit ago. And if I turn around, that out to there on the other side of the footbridge is the River Avon. Much, much bigger than the canal, of course, and it's a bit iffy at the moment because of all the rain that we've had. Here on the other side of the walkway footbridge, we have a very different view, a very flooded River Avon. At this point it's actually very difficult to work out which way the current is flowing, because over there it seems to be going in an upward direction. Over there it's making a way in the opposite direction. And that's the boathouse over there, but I don't think there's any boat trips today because it's a bit too blustery. Now, although this isn't a railway series one, it's a canal series of course, it's worth pointing this out. This is Tramway House and it's part of the Stratford-Morton Tramway, and the bridge I've just walked on along there was originally built for the Stratford-on-Avon to Morton-in-Marsh tramway, which later became part of the route from Kingham, I believe, to Shipston on Stour, long closed There are no remains of it, or virtually none, apart from this over here behind me. So yes, unbelievably, this was a wagon which once ran on the tramway, which opened in 1826 at 16 miles from Morton-in-Marsh to, from here should I say, in Stratford-on-Avon to Morton-in-Marsh, and there was a branch line to Shipston, which later became a proper railway, if you like. And this wagon was restored in 2010, and some of those stone blocks which are underneath it are the original blocks that were on the Stratford and Morton tramway. So with the canal basin just behind me there, close the section off here. A little tour of Stratford-on-Avon. We'll be back here on the channel again soon in Stratford to have a more in-depth look around this fascinating town. Anyway, I'll close the video off now, back at Wilmcote. Well, that's it for West Country Wanderings today on one of my canal series here right on the Stratford-on-Avon Canal just to the north of the village of Wilmcote. I hope you enjoyed it today. Don't forget, I've got that Facebook group also called West Country Wanderings. You can have a look at that and join that, and also share images of canals in the West Country area yourself, but also other things, places that you've seen in the West Country, like beaches and walks that you've been on, and also railways. You can also drop a comment below, click a like, a share, or subscribe to West Country Wanderings. Whatever you decide to do, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you on West Country Wanderings again very, very soon. Perhaps another canal one, perhaps a railway one, or a walking one, or visiting other places across the West Country and the southern part of the West Midlands. Take care of yourselves, look after yourselves. All the best for now. Bye-bye.